Hi folks, this is Jason with Prometheus Lights, and I have got a cool new feature to show you guys. I'm also going to show you how to install and remove it. And what I'm talking about is this little guy here. I'm calling this the primary seal ring, and it is stainless steel and it's custom made for this application. And basically it gets inserted in between the top of the O-ring and the groove on the head of the light, and it's going to make it 110% waterproof. I've pressure tested these to 300 feet for 5 hours, but I think it could be a little better, so I had this guy made. So basically the first thing we're going to do is, this is a new head that I'm building for a customer. I'm going to show you how to install this little ring. Now the first thing we're going to do, you'll notice there is a square side and then a side with a little notch. We're going to be starting with that square side for the installation, and what we're going to do is take our nano oil and just put one drop on each side of the ring. It does not take very much. You can kind of see the little drop there. Now what we're going to do is, just with our fingers, we're going to spread it around the whole thing. And this is basically just going to allow the ring to slip in between the O-ring and the head without getting stuck and jammed and damaging the O-ring. So the first thing we do is get the square tail started in the groove and just slide it in between the head and the O-ring. It's probably not going to go in that far. Hold it down with your thumb 180 degrees from where you're trying to install it. It may slip out just like it did, so don't talk too much while you're trying to do this. Slide the tail in. Now you're going to take your bent nose pliers that came with your journeyman kit, and here I've put some heat shrink tubing on it to protect the finish of the light and also the window from getting scratched. You can use masking tape or electrical tape just to wrap the tip of the pliers. You're going to start squeezing the ring in very gently, just a little bit at a time, and you're going to work your way around. It does not take much pressure. If you're going to squeeze hard, you're going to slip and damage it. As you work it around, it's going to go in easier and easier. Always hold your thumb 180 degrees from where you're working with the pliers, and you can see the ring's going to start to slip in and disappear in that little groove. And just slowly work your way around. Take your time. You don't want to scratch anything, then you'll just be annoyed. Alright, and you can see now that the ring is fully seated. These ends come really close together. Sometimes when you do the first installation and you go around with pliers, there will be a little bit of overlap and the ring's not fully seated. All you need to do is just start over at the beginning from the square side, and just again gently, a little bit at a time, squeeze the ring into the groove. And by the second time you get all the way around to the beginning, that ring should have popped into place and you'll hear a little snap. And as long as the two ends of the ring are not overlapping, you're pretty much good to go. Now I've got a little schmutz on the lens, some oil and things like that. You can take a clean, soft cloth. This is actually lens paper, and I'm just going to breathe on it here. And you can just clean it off. The other thing you can do is just run it in the sink, with some soap and water, and give it a light little scrub, because now it is really, really waterproof. So we've got our seal ring installed. It's a little bit tricky. If you take your time, it shouldn't be that difficult. Now the next trick is actually going to be to remove the ring, and you're going to take your O-ring pick. This is actually the driver removal tool that's got a 90 degrees or 90 degree bend instead of the not 90 degree bend, but this should work fine. You're going to find the little end where the notch is. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, but all you're going to do is slide the tip of the pick in. Again, you're going to have to be really careful doing this so you don't slip and scratch something. Oh, this one's being a little difficult. Alright. We may have to cut and do this over again. Oh. Alright, so what you're going to do is just hook the tip of the pick in the little notch. It'll be a little bit tough. You kind of got to work it in. Again, don't use too much pressure. Take your time. You don't want to damage the light. And you're just going to lever the very end of the ring out, and you can see it starting to come up here. And then just take your pick, slide it around underneath here, and then it's going to come out. Now if you want to remove the O-ring with the fluorosilicone, It's actually quite soft. Most likely you're going to damage the O-ring with the pick when you're taking it out. So don't do this if you only have one O-ring. You see how it's stuck through right there? So now you're going to need to replace this, otherwise it'll break. But you just take a new O-ring, and you're just going to let it sit in the groove and kind of push it down most of the way. You're going to end up with a little bit of extra that's not going to fit in because the O-ring's not seated. So all you're going to do is, again, 180 degrees from where this raised portion is, take your fingernail, push it back into the groove. And again, just a tiny bit at a time, work your way around and push it in. When you get around to this high spot, go back to where you started and go the other direction. And by the time you get all the way around, this little bump should be much lower. You can go ahead and just tuck that back in the groove with your fingernail and again push it in. Now, it's probably going to be a little bit uneven once you've gotten to this point. All you need to do is, again, take your fingernail, push the O-ring in, go around one direction, just go back the other direction to relieve any stress that you might have built up in the O-ring, and you should be good to go. Now all you got to do is put the seal back in. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope that helps.